Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Danny Phantom. First of all, before we jump into things, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time to click on the video. If whether it's been one video or 100 videos, if this is your first time or you've been here a bunch before, thank you so much just for giving me the opportunity to talk to you about Pokemon. It's a lot of fun. Pokemon is an absolute blast, and being able to share it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for just creating this dialogue, this community. It's been absolutely amazing. I wouldn't be here without you guys. So genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, as corny as that sounds, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, because none of this would be possible without you. I'm going to talk about something that I think is very, very important in today's video. We've talked about competitive Pokemon a lot. We've talked about cards that are impacted by playability, and it happens all the time in the competitive Pokemon trading card game. If you've never played Pokemon, I highly recommend you try it, whether it be going to a local league and kind of just dipping your toes in, getting your feet wet, and just seeing how things are. It's an absolute blast. I highly recommend it. If that seems like it might be too much or not really something that you're interested in, download the Pokemon Trading Card Game Live app, whether it be on your device, your Android, your Apple device, or just on a desktop or a computer of some sorts. It's a lot of fun to play, and it's free to play. You can use those code cards that you get from opening packs. They give you some cards just to kind of start out building decks, things like that. There's a whole tutorial that teaches you how to play. It's a lot of fun, even if you don't really enjoy it or think that you're going to enjoy it long term. It gives you a lot of insight and understanding into the world of the Pokemon trading card game, from not just a competitive standpoint, but also from a collecting standpoint, from a hobby standpoint. It's very, very important, and we talk about it all the time. There have been a lot of cards historically in the past that have gone through ebbs and flows all over the place, and especially right now with how volatile the market is. It seems like every day another card is being bought out, or another card is being manipulated, or another card is retracing. It's absolutely nuts. But competitive Pokemon, for the most part, is very, very affordable. Every once in a while, you do have some cards that spike because of playability and because supply isn't really there, but Pokemon has done an absolutely phenomenal job of making sure that cards that are very playable and are being hyped up and are in a lot of decks are readily available for people to obtain, to get, to pull, to whether they be in collection boxes or tins or just sets. There's a lot of them that are out there, which makes it a lot more simple for people to be able to afford this game, which is a lot of fun, really cool. But if you have no intention of ever playing the competitive Pokemon card game and you just want to collect, this is also very important. The reason it's very important is because you probably have some of the cards that we're going to talk about today, and those cards sitting right now in your collection are doing absolutely nothing. We talk all the time about making your collection work for you and maybe finding some cards. And when we talked before about how volatile the market is, and you might see these spikes, we saw the Umbreon VMAX, the Ultranar Umbreon VMAX go from, a $400 card to a $500 card to a $600 card, all the way up to $1,000. Now it's retraced a little bit back to about $850. I don't know if we're going to hit that $400 mark again. So using some of your collection, the pieces that are at high points right now, to be able to obtain those cards, those grail cards, those chase cards that you really want, is super important. So I'm going to flip you guys around so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So first recommendation is obviously to play the Pokemon trading card game. Give it a try, see what you think. But if you have no interest in playing competitively, this information is going to be vital as well, because then you shouldn't be holding these cards right now. You should trade them off while they have a little bit of value. It is called a trading card game, and using cards like Iron Hands EX, for example, it's not like, while the Iron Hands EX artwork is absolutely slapping, it's not like it's priced at $14 because of its artwork. It's priced at $14 because of its playability. And using that, while it's still at that price point, to obtain something maybe that you're missing, like the Penny Special Illustration Rare or the Nimona Special Illustration Rare from Paldean Fates, which are more difficult to pull, makes a lot of sense. So this is a deck list that was pulled from LimitlessTCG.com. We talk about LimitlessTCG.com all the time. Definitely go over there. It is a great resource for looking at deck lists, seeing what's doing well in competitive play. It's an excellent tracker for that stuff. But this goes through basically what the future deck list looks like. So it's mainly Iron Crown EX. And then you have 3 Iron Hands EX. You have Miraidon from Temporal Forces. You have Mew EX from 151. And then you have a bunch of trainer cards. So not a whole lot of Pokemon, right? You're only looking at 10 Pokemon cards in total, and then 15 energy cards. And then the majority of your deck gets made up by trainer cards. But these cards are impacted by how strong they are in the competitive format. So Iron Hands EX, which is a a regular art EX that you pull out of Paradox Rift is currently sitting at $13.85. Now, it's already dropped quite a bit, but you can see right after Paradox Rift came out, this was a $6.16 card. And then because of the hype, because of the playability, it has skyrocketed. It tripled in price. It jumped up to $21.40. A lot of people were looking for copies of it. And it's not one of those cards that's been reproduced a lot. It's basically just in Paradox Rift. There has not been any Iron Hands tins or collection boxes like what they did with Iron Valiant and what they did with Roaring Moon. Iron Hands can only be obtained in Paradox Rift, so supply of this card is not as strong as it needs to be in order for the card to be cheaper. So by using this card, if you have a copy of this, or even if you're a master set collector, I know it's not fun to pull out a card from your master set to try and obtain something else, because then you've got to make a method load, you've got to go back, and you've got to be like, hey, I've got to replace that Iron Hands EX at some point down the line. But this card will fall in price. Now, it may stay playable for a long time. Iron Hands is going to be in the format for a very long time. We're looking at least a year and a half of Iron Hands being around, and it could very well do better. It could win Worlds, and it could go up a few dollars. It could go back up to $20, but right now, it's sitting right around $14, and if it's just sitting in your binder and you're missing 4 or 5 other slots in Paradox Rift, a $13.85 card is basically the same price as that Golisopod EX special illustration rare from the same set, from Paradox Rift. Now, Iron Hands is much easier to pull than that Golisopod EX. And eventually, once this does rotate, or once we see it fall out of play competitively, it will fall in price. We've seen it all the time. There was at one point in time when Landorus EX was a $30 card for the regular art. Now it's, it rotated years ago. Black and White has been rotated out. Black and White is older. Black and White probably wasn't printed as much as Scarlet and Violet, as Sun and Moon, as X and Y. And because of that, Landorus EX still is cheap, just because it's not playable anymore. It's not a card that you can use in competitive play, at least not in the standard format. So Iron Hands will fall. We've seen it happen with every card. Shaman EX, Tapu Lele EX, a lot of cards that were really expensive back in the day when they were super playable have fallen after they've rotated. Iron Hands EX will not be any different. Right now, it is warranted at a $13.85 price point because of its playability. So if you are not playing the game and you are just collecting, and you even have one copy of this, I would recommend trading it off now, selling it off right now, and using that to build your collection goals, whether it be filling out a master set then in a year and a half, or whenever this card does fall out of play and it drops down to basically a bulk EX pricing, because it will get down to a couple dollars, then you replace it. Then you purchase it back at that point. Here's the full art right here, which is also impacted by competitive play. Now, I didn't put the special illustration rare in here at all because I don't necessarily believe that's really impacted by competitive play. It's not a super expensive special illustration rare from Paradox Rift. The Iron Hands is only selling for about $26. It'll probably have ebbs and flows as well, go down to 20, go up to 30, but it's not being utilized by a lot of competitive players like the regular art and the full art. Right now, if you compare this card right here, the Iron Hands EX, to Iron Boulder or Iron Valiant, which are going to have the same pull rate, this card is much more expensive, sitting at $18.09 because of its playability. So if you pull this card because you're having fun, you're opening packs, obviously buying singles is the way to go, but sometimes we just want to open Pokemon cards. We just want to have some fun, whether it be with your friends or whether it be with your family, and you pull an Iron Hands EX full art. That's $18.09 in value that you can then utilize, whether it be to fill out a master set because you're like, hey, this is the last card I needed, or this is a card that I want. To me, it's worth this $18.09, or you could utilize it to buy that Garchomp EX special illustration rare, which is only like $21, $22, or the Tapu Koko EX special illustration rare, which is going to be a little bit more difficult to pull, but right around the same value as what this full art Iron Hands EX. So it is down a little bit from where it was. It was at $26.20, about double the price of where it was when Paradox Rift first came out, which was $9.34. Here's another deck right here. This is Raging Bolt EX, Teal Mask Ogrepon EX. Teal Mask Ogrepon EX from Twilight Masquerade is kind of like the card right now from Twilight Masquerade that you want in a regular art form. Dragapult EX still does okay, but Teal Mask Ogrepon is probably the best one right now out of Twilight Masquerade. People just haven't figured out Dragapult EX yet. It just hasn't been figured out. Raging Bolt EX, which is from Temporal Forces. We've talked about this one before because it blew up not too long after a regional event that occurred over in California. Blew up before the North American International Championships. We saw buyouts happening all over the place. That was really impacted by competitive play, but the Raging Bolt EX regular art right now currently selling for $4.54, which is going to be high for this card. The reason it's going to be high is because there is a promo card coming out of this. I don't remember the exact date, if it's August or September, but it is going to come out in a tin, so this card is going to fall in price because competitive players really don't necessarily care about the artwork. It's nice to have variances as far as artwork in your deck, so that way you can properly identify what cards are prized, but at the same time, at the end of the day, they're just looking to build the cheapest deck that they possibly can, the lowest rarity that is out there, because they're going to be shuffling cards anyways. They're going to get damaged during play. It's very difficult to make sure that if you play a lot, to maintain that near mint feature, the near mint quality in your card. So Raging Bolt EX had fallen down to basically a bulk EX at 91 cents, blew up to about $7.22 for the regular art. Now it's leveled off at about $4.50 currently. It's only going to stay that way for a little bit longer. Obviously, it could do well at the World Championships, and I expect it will do fairly well. But at the same time, getting reprinted in a promo is going to lower the cost of this. So utilizing extras that you might have of that to fill out master sets, even the full art version right here, you can see at one point in time it had jumped up to $11.91. Now it's currently sitting at $5.71, which isn't really expensive for a full art. But if you look at comparable full arts from the set, like Gouging Fire, like Walking Wake, you know, some of those are only going to be a couple dollars. This one surely will fall to about $2-3, somewhere around that area once that promo comes out and once it kind of falls out of play competitively. So utilizing those is really your best bet. Same thing with the Teal Mask Ogrepon. Again, it's not like this Teal Mask Ogrepon has the most amazing artwork in the set. It's higher in price. This is kind of the card that you want outside of, like, if you pull the Greninja, obviously that's great. The special illustration for Greninja is fantastic, but you want to find regular arts that you're going to pull a little bit more of, and you want those to have a little bit of value. The Teal Mask Ogrepon is the one in Twilight Masquerade that does have the most value. It was at $11.66 not too long after the set came out. It basically doubled in price right away. Now it has fallen a little bit again, sitting at $8.30 currently, but if you look at all the full arts, which are a little bit more difficult to pull from Twilight Masquerade, $8.30 outside of the full art Teal Mask Ogrepon is going to cover pretty much any full art that you get out of this set. So utilizing extras that you have of this, or maybe if you even want to break up your master set and just replace this card down the line when it is cheaper, is going to kind of be the way to go with that. So here's the full art Teal Mask Ogrepon EX. Again, I'm not covering the special illustration rares. Those are impacted by competitive play a little bit, but for the most part, a lot of that's going to be more impacted by collectability. The full art at one point in time was $15.81, not too long after the set came out. It had fallen down to $10.18. Currently sitting at $11.63. There are league challenges, league cups that are going on right now that are for next season. We haven't had any regional events yet. The past season that we just finished has its World Championships that's coming up in just over a month, and then after that we start regional events back up for the current competitive season. So Teal Mask Ogrepon, again, depending on how it does in competitive play, will fall at some point in time. Here's the Radiant Greninja. This is the most expensive Radiant card, even higher than some of the Radiant Charizards that have been put out there because of its concealed cards ability right there. Again, this card will be in format for a little while, but this one is more expected to rotate in spring of next year, so kind of utilizing its value right now. Not a lot of value, but that extra $5 right there, a Radiant Greninja, which can basically replace almost any regular art EX that's out there from the entirety of Scarlet and Violet, or probably get you multiples of them that you might be missing to fill out master sets. It's very important to kind of use that, or you might have multiple copies of this Radiant Greninja kind of lying around. This card will fall at some point in time down to, you know, $1 or somewhere around that price point. You can see it was down to $2.72 in October of 2023. Then it's been steadily rising. It's been as high as $7, but because this is the best Radiant card out there for competitive play, this is the one that gets used the most. And even despite the fact that it's been reprinted in structure decks or in decks like various decks that are out there, I think it was in a few the VMAX decks and things like that, still sitting at $5 and a penny. So it's still sitting at fairly decent value, and utilizing extra copies or even your singular copy to fill out master sets or shore up collections is really important. Then we've got the Dragapult EX deck that we were just talking about, but we're going to focus more on the Pidgeot line in this deck. So Pidgeot was printed in Obsidian Flames. There's a few different rarities of it. There's the regular art, there's the full art, and then it was reprinted as a full art shiny in Paldean Fates. Even like the Pidgey, the baby shiny Pidgey from Paldean Fates, very high in price point. That is going to fall once Pidgeot rotates, or once Pidgeot doesn't become as good in competitive play. Pidgeot should be good for a long time yet. probably at least a year and a half yet that you're going to see Pidgeot, because of its quick search ability, is going to be very, very strong. But if you look at the Pidgeot EX right here, the regular art's still selling for $8.25. For Obsidian Flames, a set like Obsidian Flames that has such easy pull rates, that is very, very high pricing, especially when you compare it to the other regular arts in the set, which are much, much cheaper. This card has been as high as $10.37. It's been as low as $7, but for the most part, anywhere between $7 and $10 for a regular art is very, very strong, sitting at $8.25. It's a little bit more expensive than the full art variant that's also in Obsidian Flames, currently selling for $7.08. At one point in time, it was up to $8. At one point in time, it was down just below $5, but currently sitting at $7.08. Again, another card that will fall once it falls out of favor for competitive play. You can always replace it in your master set down the line, or if you have duplicate copies, now's really the time, if you don't plan on playing Pokemon, to kind of trade those off. That helps bring the market down for competitive players, and also helps you fill out your collection goals a lot more quickly. And here's the full art shiny from Paldean Fates. Now, this is one of the more expensive full art shinies, not because people love the artwork. Yes, it is an OG, one of the original 151, but at the same time, it's also impacted a lot because it's a little bit cheaper of an option that does the same thing, has the same ability, and because of that, it's selling for $6.09 out, like other than the Noivern EX or the Paldean Clodsire EX or some of the other full art shinies that are basically selling for like $1. Because of its competitive playability, this one is selling for about $6. Currently, it has been as high as $8.31 and as low as $4.93. Here's a couple more that you may want to pay attention to. I wouldn't necessarily sell off your Dragapult EXs right now or trade them off if you only have one copy of them. If you have duplicates, it's not going to be that big of a deal. But if you plan on playing at one point in time, obviously you may want to keep on to these. This really deck hasn't really been figured out. If it does get figured out, it's going to be a very strong card. Dragapult has not been reprinted yet. There's only a couple different variants of it. Obviously, we have the regular art and the full art. There's no special illustration rare or anything like that. Like I said, it has fallen out of favor a lot because a lot of people just haven't figured out how to use it. There's different variants out there with Charizard, with Pidgeot. There's different ones out there that it's okay, but unless it makes a big splash at Worlds, right now it's more Teal Mask Ogrepon from Twilight Masquerade. So because of that, the market price has fallen a lot. You still get about $9 from the full art Dragapult, about $3.50 from the regular art, but that may go up a little bit depending on how well Dragapult does and what kind of support it gets from future sets. There's also cards right now that are going to be rotating, like the Dialga V-Star, like the Regidrago V-Star. Those should be good for about 6, 7, 8 months yet, but once rotation hits, you know what bulk V-Stars look like. You're only getting about 75 cents if you're lucky out of a lot of bulk V-Stars. So the origin form Dialga V-Star has already started to fall quite a bit. That one's currently selling for about $4. The Regidrago V-Star is down to about $6.50. It had been as high as $9, $10, $11 about a month ago. So it's going to depend on how it does in competitive play moving forward. It might go up a few dollars. It might go down close to bulk pricing again. But once it rotates out of format, it's going to fall very, very quickly. So those, if you have extras of those, you might want to utilize those while you can. And then there's a lot of trainer cards that kind of go up and down all over the place. The big ones are going to be Switch Cart and Pokestop. Those are going to rotate out relatively quickly. Again, within the next 7, 8 months or so, once we get the next rotation, everything from Sword and Shield is basically going to rotate out of the current format. That means it's not going to be legal for competitive play anymore. You still have Buddy Buddy Poffin, Earthen Vessel. That is expected to get reprinted in a deck at one point in time. Should still have a decent amount of value. Counter Catcher, currently selling for about $1.50. Arven, you have 2 different copies of Arven there from Obsidian Flames and Scarlet and Violet base. So sorting through your bulk, making sure that you utilize these cards, even if you're getting like 60% of the value in trade for something like this for your LGS, it still is kind of worth it because right now it's just probably sitting in bulk boxes or not utilizing what it's supposed to do, not utilizing the idea of growing your collection or things like that. So it's important to kind of keep up with what is going on in competitive play, so that way you can get a better understanding of what your collection can do for you, and I think that's really important to look at. So I wanted to record a video kind of going over these cards so you can kind of know what cards to look out for or what cards you might have right now that you should be putting to use to get maybe something that you really want or something that you're chasing. Then you can always replace those cards down the road once they fall out of favor or once they're not in competitive rotation anymore. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that subscribe button down below, leave a like, leave a comment. It goes a really long way for the algorithm, but ultimately thank you again just for taking the time to click on the video, for listening. It means the world to me. I love you guys. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Until next time, peace.